women are really yearning for this. I think they're just looking for a platform to express it on. Yeah. And a lot of women have been oppressed with their feelings for a very long time. They've been, they've hidden a lot of their experiences, and they're just ready to come out and to heal and to find unity in other women.
Hey guys, welcome back to Seek the Joy podcast. Happy Seek the Joy Tuesday. On the podcast today is Raquel Genae and Vanessa Marie, the dynamic, inspiring, and really incredible sisters behind the Fem Files. Raquel and Vanessa are dedicated to giving women a voice and a platform to be who they want to be and provide the space for what they want to see. They're honestly so inspiring, full of so much wisdom, and this was one of those episodes where I lost track of how long we were talking, and when we stopped recording, we talked for another hour. I am such a huge fan of these two. I am so inspired by them. Their love for one another really comes through in this podcast, but even more than that, they have a really deep love for supporting women, encouraging women, and this is really what the Fem Files is all about. You'll hear it on today's episode, but the Fem Files is really a collective of creativity, self-love, empowerment, body positivity, and feminism, really displayed through an expression of art and fashion and media. Raquel and Vanessa both really saw a huge lack of representation and leadership among women across all industries, and through creating content and starting the conversation, they're really being the change that they want to see. On today's episode, we chat all about the inspiration behind the Fem Files, how they've really drawn on their own experiences to shape the mission behind their platform. We also talk about what it's like working and creating together as sisters, finding their voice through giving other women a voice and a platform to share theirs. And of course, we talk about their self-love, empowerment, and joy journeys too. So I want to try something new. I want to do an iTunes review of the week because I am always so blown away by your reviews and also your DMs and your emails, and I really want to highlight them. So this week, our iTunes review of the week comes from I Love Music 121, and it says, "What a joy. Seek the Joy has sparked such interesting conversation, inspiration, and motivation for me personally as a listener. The podcast brings authentic and transparent storytelling to life with each episode's guest. Sydney as a host is a warm and inspiring personality, and I look forward to the varying, unique, empowering perspectives and topics that are covered here. Treat yourself," oh my God, that's my favorite part, "and give this joyful podcast a listen." I Love Music 121. Thank you so much for your review. If you haven't already, please send me an email to sydney@seekthejoypodcast.com. I want to send you my stickers and my guide for infusing more joy into your life. And if you would like to receive those stickers and that guide too, and you feel so inspired to leave us a rating and review on iTunes, I would be so grateful. As you know, ratings and reviews really help Seek the Joy podcast get seen by new people. So go ahead and take a screenshot of that review and send it to sydney@seekthejoypodcast.com. As always, to learn more about today's episode, head over to the show notes section of our website, seekthejoypodcast.com/show-notes, and everything is right there. All right, guys, that's it. I am so excited and inspired by today's episode. I know you're going to love it and leave feeling empowered. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Raquel and Vanessa of the Fem Files.
So happy to be here. My name is Raquel Genae. I'm a writer, co-founder of the Fem Files, and I'm a spoken word performer.
I'm Vanessa. Vanessa Marie. Me and Raquel are sisters. I'm a designer. Currently, I'm in design school, and me and my sister are the founders of the Fem Files. So we're super happy to be here.
Like, we kind of are all around creatives. Like, it's funny, we were kind of talking about like how we would label ourselves or what we consider ourselves, but I really just see it as like there's a lot of unlimited possibilities that we love to dabble in just media. We love to dabble in art, fashion, just kind of all around creatives, creators. So yeah, that's how I'd say how we consider ourselves.
How we see ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because I think sometimes the hardest thing is figuring out how to introduce yourself, right? Or how to define yourself in that way.
Yeah,
exactly. I was just going to say, you asked me, hey, introduce yourself. And you're like, oh, shoot. How do I define myself?
Yeah, especially when you do so many different things. So to kind of put yourself, I guess, right, in like a box that way, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. Yeah.
So what is it like working together as sisters on this project?
Okay, so it's definitely, just picture this. Like, this is a lot of our night sometimes. Well, it's like 4 a.m. Me and my sister on FaceTime. My sister is asleep on FaceTime, and I'm getting so angry. I'm so angry, and I'm like, "Are you awake?" And she's trying to convince me that she's been awake this whole time. When I see her head down, and we'll just both be yelling at each other. Our hair's all crazy, but we need to post. I'm like, it's 4 a.m. We still gotta do this. It's definitely.
And everyone sees kind of the finished product, and they're like, wow, your post was really good yesterday. And I was like, well, neither of us were in a happy mood. Like, it's not always daisies working. But it's a great thing, too, because
it's so great.
We're the most honest and blunt people. And sometimes we step on each other's toes quite often. But I also think that's room for openness. And it also could be, we're able to talk to each other so fluidly and without really consideration sometimes for others' feelings, but which is also in a sense a negative thing, because we're almost too open to reject each other's ideas because we've grown up together and we've known each other since we were born. So it's a little bit more difficult in that sense, but we also think in a way that we're able to have like a sort of consensus. Is this a good post? Is this good content or not? And typically we'll agree.
Definitely. I mean, overall, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I think sometimes it's very hard to find someone as dedicated and deeply rooted into something you believe in. And for both of us to really be on the same page about it is such a blessing. We're really here for each other.
I think you guys are really lucky, right, to have that kind of relationship that can translate into a business creative relationship, because I'm not sure how many siblings have that. I think there's a lot of butting heads sometimes, and the fact that you guys can disagree and then kind of make up and keep going, I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a little bit off topic, but there is a sibling story that I read about in The Art of Creative Thinking, this book. And it was 2 guys, I think it was in Belgium, Germany. It wasn't in the United States. And
2 brothers,
they both created a shoe company together, but they kept having like really bad creative conflicts. And eventually they just started competing in the town together for different companies. And I think one of them is Adidas and the other one's Puma now.
Yeah.
And they're brothers.
Yeah, they ended up splitting up, and then they made their own shoe companies, and they both ended up being incredibly successful. So it shows how it could be either go one or the other. You can either work really well, or y'all have to professionally decide to swap. So I think it's nice that we're able to work so well together and still be respectful. I think it's really hard when you kind of combine business and personal, but if you're able to do it, then it can be twice as powerful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I was so excited just to hear from you guys that I didn't even have you explain what the Fem Files is. So everyone's probably like, what are they even talking about? So could you just explain maybe what the Fem Files is and what your mission behind it is and all that good stuff?
The Fem Files is definitely a collective of self-empowerment, body positivity, and feminism through art and fashion. So it's basically the media. We want to create the media we want to see in the world. It's about representing women, not only physically, but internally, showcasing their accomplishments, their knowledge, just embodying everything a woman is.
Because just I do all levels of womanhood. Sorry.
Totally. Sister problems.
I was just finishing the statement that I thought you were going to finish, and I was just going to say we try to represent all levels of womanhood and all women, inclusive of all age groups, all races, of all interests. And we don't discriminate on any level.
I love that. Mm-hmm. So you're doing it through art and fashion, and I know right now a big part of it is Instagram. Where do you guys see it going this year?
So definitely, I think through Instagram, which I'm so grateful for Instagram because it has been, like, it really has been our main factor in how we've built the Fem Files, because it showcases the images we want to see. So I think after we grow like a really big community on Instagram, we kind of want to take it to, our website. We want to take it to like panel discussions. We want to really put a lot of action behind just the images you see, creating campaigns like self-love campaigns with other organizations, I think are super important. And as that grows, then I think you're going to slowly start to see women change the way they feel about themselves, the way they interact, and just like an overall, it starts very small within ourselves, but it grows into a community change and then a global change,
Yeah.
It's all a habit. It's all a process every day. I'm sure just doing every one thing a day, it doesn't seem like a lot, but then it builds up to be something a lot more. So I think especially this year, we're just growing and we're just building and more ideas and a lot more content creating than we have before.
Women are really yearning for this. I think they're just looking for a platform to express it on. Yeah. And a lot of women have been oppressed with their feelings for a very long time. They've been, they've hidden a lot of their experiences, and they're just ready to come out and to heal and to find unity in other women. And I think we want to be that platform for women to become their highest selves, to become their best selves.
Yeah, to find a language to give to women, because sometimes we don't know how to configure it or formulate these words that we're feeling maybe as a community. And me and my sister, as we're growing, we're finding the words to put out into the Fem Files to be able to relate to other people or to a lot of other women.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think as you grow and change, the work that you do grows and changes with you.
Sure, yeah.
Do you guys feel like you've pulled on experiences from your own lives to really create this platform?
Yes, definitely. I think the biggest thing for me, I know me and my sister struggled differently growing up, as far as my sister it was predominantly, she was really not accepted because of the way she looked. And then I felt really not accepted because of the way that I expressed myself, which might in a way go hand in hand. And just growing up and having, when you're on the right path and you kind of have these signs of other women saying, hey, I really like what you're wearing, or hey, I really like what you created, because they have some sort of urgency inside of them that feels a very similar way. So I think just a lot of instances of that, and that being kind of my leading path to where I am now, those voices kind of keeping me on the path. Okay, I'm doing something right. I'm able to associate with a bigger community other than myself. So I think those moments were just key for me to keep me where I am and just on track and to finding the Fem Files.
No, of course. Like, I completely agree. And not only that, I think the events in our life are the reason why the Fem Files were born. Because it is things that we felt so strongly about, experiences we felt so strongly about. Because initially speaking, I wrote a blog like a few years ago. It started as me writing a blog for self-empowerment, because I went through a lot in high school, just a lot of negativity from women, but not only from them, it was from me as well. I was in a different place in my life. I was a completely different person. And I think over time, as I reflected on experiences, I needed a way to showcase them and to express them. So I wrote a blog not only about my high school experiences, but just of what I've learned, and to be an example of women who are making the same thing as me. I made a blog on WordPress. I had it for like 8 or 9 months. My sister kind of helped. We tried to make we made 2 or 3 videos, and she helped with like the videography. But eventually that blog ended up crashing. Like they pretty much crashed, and I couldn't get it back. I lost all my information, and I was devastated. And what ended up being like such a hard time in my life ended up blossoming the Fem Files, which is what we're doing now. So I really love that, bad experiences turn into the best experiences of your life, or really put you in where you're meant to go, in the right places.
I couldn't agree more. I think those experiences really set the foundation for who you are and what excites you or you're passionate about, or even the messages that you really want to put out into the world. Because without those experiences, you really wouldn't have anything to draw from.
For sure.
So it's really cool to hear how you two have similar but different experiences, and then you've brought them together to really create the Fem Files.
It's a very, very beautiful coincidence that what my sister isn't like formally, I guess, educated in as far as, design or graphic design, I can do, and then I lack in writing, and she's a phenomenal writer. So it just happened to birth itself, and it was always there, but it was just never the right time. But our failure together, like she said, blossomed the Fem Files to be what it is today.
Yeah, I love that. You can tell that you guys really get along, and you love the work that you're doing together. And do you guys feel through the Fem Files that you found your voice, or has it really helped you find your voice?
I think in a lot of sense. Like, for instance, I feel like it's helped rediscover my voice, because as a kid, I was always very loud, just always rolling in the dirt, always loved to play fight, just a really large personality. And I think as we go through, middle school, high school, puberty, relationships, we end up kind of losing that fire, that creative edge that all of us are born with. And I think the Fem Files really let me be myself again, or just rediscover everything that I already was, because I've always had a voice, but I just wasn't able to own it the way I am now. I wasn't able to, put a name to it, put a face to it, and really show women like you can be your 100% self without any apologies, without feeling insecure, like it's possible. And it's still, like, I'm still working at it every day, but the Fem Files has let me, has allowed me to do so and be an example to women who are also growing in the same way.
In my way, I think what it's done for me most is just creating, in a little bit of a smaller scale, but just creating habits for myself. I'm a really spontaneous person, and sometimes I lose myself in my work a lot. And just taking time every day to do something, and in this case, it's planning for the Fem Files and talking about something that's bigger than myself. But taking time every day for the Fem Files has helped me taking time for myself, because I think as an artist, I lose myself a lot, and I'm not my work, and that does not amount to my worth. So I think that's taught me a really big lesson, is that you always have time. It's just a matter of making time.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. I agree with both of you. I mean, on the one hand, rediscovering your voice, Raquel, and understanding who you are and what you're excited about and passionate about. And then Vanessa, not getting lost in your work, or not allowing your work to define you. I think both are things that so many of us are struggling with, or trying to come to terms with, or just realizing that there's so much media, there's so much going on with friends and family, there's political unrest, there's social unrest, and I think we have a tendency to lose our own voices throughout that. And then you couple that with your own personal experiences. And so I think it's amazing to find an avenue or something that you're passionate about that helps you get more in touch with who you are and your values, and understanding, that you're not defined by that external. You're not your work.
No, definitely. I just think also it's just very, like I said, like you said, it's very overwhelming. And I think the noise can be very loud, especially in your head and your everyday experiences. So to find something that helps you tune in to who you are and kind of give you peace, is something that we all need, and it's something we all work towards and try to outlet.
Yeah, and these projects growing with you, because we all are on a road of self-improvement, and it's nice to see a project next to you. You know, it didn't start at 100 and it started at 85%. It started at 0. So just improving yourself alongside something that you believe in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think along the same lines in terms of having all that overwhelm, that we're surrounded with, I think you guys touched on this a little bit earlier, but so many of the dominant images in the media are those, photoshopped, perfectionist images of what women are supposed to look like or how we're supposed to be or behave. And I think within it, there's this inherent pressure, to look a certain way, be a certain way. And it really can impact, our willingness and our ability to love ourselves and really accept ourselves for who we are. Have you guys been able to really embrace and love yourselves, despite those images that are out there?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a process. We don't wake up every day and we're already, I love myself so much. There's really, really some hard days. Beyonce has, really hard days. And, we all think that she's at such a level, and she is. But, Oprah has her bad days. But, and I think that it's just a work in progress. Like, I think every day just reminding yourself that you are enough and accepting your thoughts. Every single human has bad thoughts, and just being okay with the good and bad, and not having so much pressure, especially as a woman, because like Raquel said, you start as a child being just this little creative rebel, and you're so happy and you haven't been conditioned to the things that society might feed you consciously or subconsciously, and deciding that the habits or maybe just the behavior that you have every day isn't supposed to fit into a box of what a woman is supposed to be.
I completely agree. I just think overall, especially, I think it's hard, especially as a woman, because our value is so heavily placed on our looks. And if we don't fall into that category, we automatically think we're unworthy. And when you think you're unworthy on the outside, you feel unworthy on the inside as well. Which I think the more we can really talk to women and have them accept all these parts of themselves and showcase all of that in the media, slowly, it won't just be about the outer appearance. Slowly, they will start to accept their internal self as well. And that's where their highest potential lies. You know what I mean? It's just a way to get through to them to be able to reach their inner potential. Because, if you don't like the way you look, how are you going to like the way you write? How are you going to like the way you think? All of it is correlated. That's why I think it's so incredible that we're able to relate to each other and really help women accept their outer appearance so they can start to accept their inner appearance and reach their highest goals. I think for me is that I definitely I'm in a really good place about loving myself, but I am also tested every day. When you have a platform like the Fem Files, everyone's like, wow, like you must live this every day. And yes, I try to my fullest ability to live the truth that I preach. But, every now and then I fall short of my character. I have bad days. I feel negative. And it's not about hiding those feelings. It's not about showing people just the good parts about yourself. It's about being honest that you have negative and positive feelings and not looking at them as good or bad, just looking at them as allowing them to rest inside you, watching your thoughts and just allowing them to flow naturally outside your body as they pass. It's not about, oh, I don't have any darkness inside of me. Like, I don't feel negative. I love myself now. No problem. No, that's not being honest. That's not self-love is self-awareness. It's being okay with everything you feel inside and looking at it and finding out, why do I feel this way? How can I make it easier to live inside myself? How can I make my mind more at ease with who I am? It's just full acceptance, which is so hard to do. It's, it's not an easy thing.
And me and Raquel have talked about before how self-love can sometimes be misunderstood on Instagram or online, because we think it's a place that you get to or a place that you go, or lighting candles or taking a bath, which those things can, exactly, so glamorous what self-love is, but it's all a mental battle. It's an inside job. And it's when you practice self-love, it's not always portrayed on social media what it actually looks like. So just being able to understand that and connect everybody to understand what it actually is, so that, we can all help each other in a way.
Yeah, I agree with this so much. I think self-love has kind of become a market, like people are trying to sell it.
No,
and I love what you guys have been talking about, just in terms of, it's really about understanding that not every day is a good day, and it's interesting because my podcast is called Seek the Joy Podcast, and people assume that I'm joyful every day, because I have a podcast about joy. And it's like, no, I mean, a really good example is like the other day I had a really, really bad day and I was getting really upset with myself. And I went to this place where, you start to call yourself names that aren't really nice. And for me, self-love in that moment was saying, okay, wait, hold on. We're not going to go down that road. That all the things you're saying to yourself are not true. How can we reframe the narrative in that moment? And for me, that was self-love. It wasn't about, which candle am I going to light, or, am I going to journal? And all those things are so valuable. And I think for a lot of us, attaching like a physical, like a to-do list item to self-love helps us remember to practice that self-love. But it's really more about how you choose to treat yourself, in any moment, and like what you come back to doing for yourself, to remind yourself and to treat yourself with that love and that kindness and that compassion, which I think is really, at least for me, what it's really all about.
And I think something that's really big is that we just tell the truth, and we tell the truth as far as what is self-love. And we don't want to participate in a market where it confuses people to what that is. We want to talk about the real issues and not beat around the bush and not make it look, well, sometimes we'll make it look, pretty and aesthetic, but just talking about really trying to address the underlying real problems.
And respecting everyone's way of self-love, and not telling people how to love themselves. We may give them ideas of, for instance, I can tell you 3 or 4 things I do that really help me love myself more and believe in myself more, but that doesn't mean I expect you and that's going to work for you and you have to do it this way. I don't want people to think we're trying to tell them how to live and how to love their full selves, because that is always up to you.
Yeah,
like, no one
it might not work
for you.
Yeah,
exactly.
It might not work for them.
For you.
Right.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I think it's really important to share those things that work for you, because you never know, like for somebody that could really click for them, but I think there's no one formula for these things. So speaking of what you do, to help yourself with self-love and self-worth, and to remind yourself, to practice self-care and all that good stuff, what are some things that you do?
Super fun question. Okay. So what I love to do is, I have a few things. So I really believe in, affirmations, speaking your life into existence, writing it down, reading it, do it before you go to sleep. A lot of things that I'll do is I'll write down like 2 or 3 affirmations. I'll go in the bathroom, close the door, give myself some time, and look in the mirror and say, I am powerful, or I am valuable, or and it could really change day to day. But to me, looking myself in the mirror means I'm not hiding from myself. I know who I am, and I can see who I am, and I'm alone. So I don't need to hide or show anyone anything different. I can't hide from myself. So when I really say these things, I actually really, really believe them. And that to me helps me every day to kind of develop that idea and that truth that I live behind that. And I also write down, I have 2 or 3 sentences that I've been writing down for at least a year or 2. When I ever have a bad day, or I try to do it every single day, but it doesn't always happen. I'll just write it down, and it says I will be, or I am, the most this, and that. And I will read it to myself, and I write it in my journal. I also believe in thoughts. So when you go to sleep, I always think about what I want the most, or I picture myself at the highest level of what I'm doing. And I just really try to stay in that thought before I go to bed. So then when I sleep, it kind of starts manifesting in my sleep. So, and of course, like meditation, I eat fruit. I listen to soothing music. I love going outside. There's just so many things. But those are pretty much like the main things that really help me push forward into where and what I want to be.
Mine are a little bit similar. I write a lot too. I write a lot of thoughts that I have down. So I have a list. I have a list of dreams. So I know where I'm headed and a vision that I have for myself. And that gives me some sort of comfort. And I just started it actually this year, but I have a list of 3 things that I want to work on. And it's something that I can just do mentally inside myself every day. And that's kind of an example that you had earlier when you were talking about that you were going down a bad path as far as how you were talking to yourself inside your head, and you stopped yourself and you redirected that thought to be something better. And so I have 3 things that are very specific that stream into my consciousness as far as the thoughts that I'm having, to stop myself, to not judge good or bad, to make sure that I'm not feeding my ego. And then I love going outside. I think the outside just makes me feel really small, and that my stress and anxiety is not big, and it's a very teeny sense of importance. So it makes me feel really small, which is also a comfort to me, because, the things that I'm sometimes worried about are not important, and they're very minor to what the thoughts that I could be amounting to, which are a lot bigger. So those are a couple of things that I do.
And kind of like what Vanessa said earlier, she was talking about how we kind of need the idea of self-love or self-care as a destination, or it's somewhere we get to. It's realizing that you're already this person. I am smart. I am this. I already have all the money that I need. I already have all the resources and everything I need. I just need to feel it and embody it, and everything will come. It's not, I want to be this person, and you keep struggling day by day. I keep wanting to be, but I'm not her. I can't be her. You're already telling yourself you're not before you even let yourself become who you are, So it's like, I already am a great person and peaceful and loving and understanding. I just need to continue to move through my days in that truth. And I won't always make it. Some days it's not going to happen, and I'm totally okay with that. It's okay. That I feel like that's really what it's about.
Yeah. So much of it too is about perspective, I think. Perspective on a couple levels. First of all, that piece, Raquel, that you were just talking about in terms of you are already this person. You don't have to try and be anything. You already are. And I think so many of us are kind of stuck in that loop of we want to be that person that we see on Instagram who has X, Y, and Z, or a friend in our life, whatever it might be. But you actually already are that person. You just have to keep doing the work a little bit, I think, every single day to remind yourself, that you are that person. And then the other end of that perspective too, I think, is about realizing that, like the stuff that's bothering us or affecting us or that we're upset about in the grand scheme of things, like in the grand picture of our lives, like in 10 years, am I going to remember that Tuesday where I was like really upset about something? I don't know. I probably won't. And so I think it's about reminding yourself of those things, and it helps you kind of come out of those things faster.
Exactly. It's like redirecting yourself to center yourself through those moments, that like allowing yourself to feel this way, but understanding in a year or 2 years or even maybe a week, this will not be important. To let it go, let it flow through you. It's okay. Don't hold on. I think too many people sometimes hold on to experiences that happen, whether it's a bad day, a bad friendship, and they end up carrying that with them everywhere, rather than just allowing it to be and just moving on with your day, moving on with your life, just completely.
Yeah. So many of us take that baggage with us, and instead of, letting it off at its train stop, we just keep having it build on and build up as time goes on. How have you guys developed these practices? Because while you guys were talking, I was sitting here going, okay, wow, like so much of this, if not all of it, is so valuable.
For me, truthfully, my sister has been a crazy influence on me, even since I was younger. And sometimes she'll tell me to do these things because she sees me, too enthralled in my work, or she'll kind of redirect me, like, maybe you should meditate, maybe you should read more, maybe you should. And at first, you know, I'll refuse because I'm stubborn. But after doing it, at first I'll feel a bit stupid, just, you know, why am I doing this? But over time, I feel myself relaxing more, you know, the way that I feel inside relaxing more, or just not as anxious or not as stressed. And I think even outlets on social media, like a couple people that I'll follow, I'll see something and, you know, something inside me will be a little bit excited and I'll try it. And, you know, sometimes it'll work for me, sometimes it won't. But that's kind of where I get my influence from.
Aw, love you.
Love you.
For me, I think it was a lot of mistakes and a lot of it was self-taught. Like, of course, there are people that I admire and follow, like Oprah, that always gives so much insight. And, you know, she talks about how we need to be so reflective of our experiences, and every single thing that happens in your life is to teach you something. It has value. It's important, whether good or bad. So I think I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, and I've been thinking back to my experiences. Like, I've been reflecting since I was, you know, really young. Like, I'd say, like, even 8th, 9th grade, 7th grade. It's just all over the place. But I've always looked back at the mistakes I've done, and I've learned from them. And I'd be like, okay, wow, that taught me not to value, you know, not to value a relationship I had with a boy over a friendship I have with a girl. I'm going to do better next time. So next time comes, and as I fall, get back up, fall again, I become more aware of my surroundings and just as who I want to be as a woman and what kind of image. I've always thought of that we have to be examples for other women, and not to put pressure on ourselves, but just it really helps me feel like there are women depending on me to be my best self and to give wisdom, but still be honest about my mistakes so they don't think that I'm any better, because at the end of the day, we all choose to learn from our experiences. Everyone experiences life, but it's a choice you make to reflect on why something happened so you can build from it, rather than, oh, I don't know why that happened, let me do it again tomorrow. You know, you're not learning that way. So it's a choice we make on how we want to grow from things that happen to us. And I can see, and I meet people, and I can see people who really are able to grow from them, and people who choose not to look at their experiences to become a better person, because life is working for you. This is all for you. This is never against you. And I think, like I said, it comes down to perspective on how you see it.
Well, even too, Oprah, I'm going to quote Oprah, but she always says, sometimes you have to be really open for so many things to become your teachers. Sometimes it's really not direct. Sometimes it's not your older sister telling you to meditate. Sometimes it's really subtle, or just, friends, or just weird, quote unquote, coincidence happening to pick up on that and learn from it, and then put it into your habits, your rituals. And then sometimes you can learn from people that you would never expect to learn from. But if you're open to receiving it and taking their advice, then it's just another way to better yourself and better your person.
I love what you guys are saying. I'm just taking it all in, because I think there's so much wisdom here. And I think there's so much that you can take from your own experiences. And I think our past is our greatest teacher. And then how you choose to view your past or view your experiences, it's exactly what you've been saying, Raquel. I mean, you have the choice in terms of how you're going to reflect on it or what you're going to choose to do with it. And I think it's about learning to take those negative experiences and really turn them into a positive. I'm like you just said, Vanessa, I love that quote from Oprah. I mean, it's like, you got to be open to different experiences or different people, to be your teachers.
We honestly look at so many interviews with Oprah.
Oprah is
like
our biggest fan. Teacher.
If you hear us, Oprah, we love you.
Yeah.
We carry Oprah around.
So along with Oprah, I mean, who inspires you guys? Like, what are your biggest inspirations?
That's a good one.
Besides Oprah.
Besides Oprah, because I figured she's on the list.
As far as, so on social media, I follow Amanda Seales, who's a comedian, but she speaks so many truths, and she has so much confidence in doing so. So I think she's a huge teacher for me as far as just if we're talking about social media. And then reading a lot helps me. And I find a lot of teachers in those, and I quote books all the time because I just think they're so direct, and then you can highlight them and remember them forever. But The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, he is definitely, he was a turning point for me. And I also think that everything happens for a reason. So I always associate the timing of when I'm reading a certain book and the timing of my life and what that teacher is trying to teach me at the time of my life. So he's done a lot for me. And then The Untethered Soul, and that has a lot to do with an inner battle. And he just touches on so many things as far as stress, anxiety, and really puts it in perspective. His name's Michael Singer. So that's I would say my teachers at the time.
For me, it's weird. Like, I just see so many teachers in so many ways. I feel like I have a bunch of different parts of myself. You know, people like Michelle Obama, people who've always kind of given that light and always been about education for women. I've also attracted to people in the music industry like Princess Nokia, who has this very, you know, this edge to her, who will say whatever she thinks. So I find inspiration in every single type of woman. It's so weird. Like, I'll be online and, you know, people, you know, writing that touches me is like Maya Angelou. Like, I love her. Like, she's a phenomenal writer. But I can also find appreciation in someone like Cardi B. I love how she says what she feels. She does not care. She is loud. She is here, and she walks in the room, and you know it. Like, I admire all types of women, and I think also it's about finding leaders and finding inspiration in all. So for me, I feel like it's so, you know, it's such a range of women that I couldn't really put my main inspiration. Obviously, Oprah is like one of my number one, but overall, what inspiration does for me is not only, inspiration doesn't inspire me to want to be like them, because I know a lot of people, when we see something great, we're like, oh my God, I wish I could do that. Like, I want to do that. I should have done that. I think it inspires me to be myself more. Like, people like Tracy Ellis Ross, she's amazing, but I'm not inspired to want to talk like her or want to act like her or, you know, look like her. I'm inspired to like, wow, I really want to get to that point where I'm just spreading light and I'm starting to really be everything. You know, I am already this, but I'm starting to, my thoughts are aligned with my actions. My soul is aligned with my personality, and I'm just this all around woman. So it inspires me to keep going and to really believe in myself. So that's kind of like the inspiration I take. And I've really been inspired by so many countless women. So like, I kind of take that day by day.
And I wanted you to say Tracy Ellis Ross because I've like always talked about this one thing that she said. She said, I don't wear my hair naturally, and I don't wear my hair like this for you to want my hair. But I wear my hair like this so that you want your hair, because I'm not here for you to want to embody me. I want you to embrace it, the human that you were given.
Like, embrace yourself. I want you to be comfortable with who you are, because you see me on such a platform embracing who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the more we embrace ourselves, I think it encourages others to do the same.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
No, I definitely.
Vanessa, first of all, I'm making my way through The Untethered Soul right now. So when we're done, when I'm done with it, you and I are going to have to chat. That quote about Tracy Ellis Ross is so interesting, because so often we see images and then people want to be those images, as opposed to taking something from it, you know, that feels good to you, that you can then really implement into your own life.
And I think that also has to do with confidence in yourself and confidence in who you want to be, because I think a lot of people who, let's say you want to copy ideas or you want to copy images, it's a lot of that comes from lack of belief in your own ideas and your own image. So I think sometimes we have to get to a level of like, there is no one better than me. There is no one who can do it like me. I appreciate all this inspiration and I love it, but I am still on my own path and I'm still going to create my own self.
Yeah. What do you guys think you've learned the most about yourself working together on the Fem Files and just kind of growing into your own along the way?
What I love about the Fem Files so much is that it's always acted as a guide for myself. It's kind of like not only a teacher, but it keeps me in check of reminding me of an idea bigger than myself. So, you know, whenever maybe I have a weak moment and I want to speak negatively about someone or do something that doesn't complement what I preach to other women, it is always there to remind you, like, Raquel, you can't be doing this. Like, this is what you preach to other women, and you must live the truth that you preach. And the Fem Files is an act of that. It's an act of what I really want to be and what I aspire to be and what I already am. So it keeps me, it really does keep me aligned, and it keeps me grounded in what I want to be. And so I don't kind of go astray, or I don't get lost, or, sometimes we really tend to embrace ourselves in negative ways. Kind of like we induce ourselves in negative behavior, or we go out with certain people and certain situations that it's really easy to lose yourself. So for the Fem Files, I think it's nice to always bring it back and to always remind me.
Taking time to remember,
Yeah, remembering who I am and who I want to be. Personally, I always felt like throughout my journey, I've been able to really step into my own individuality, and that has always been really hard for me as a kid, because I think, I'm a very social person, and I really thrive off social environments. So, I love people. I really that's where I feel like I'm most creative and most happy, is around great people. But I think learning to be by yourself and learning that a group of people will not validate you and will not be the reason why you become successful, or is not your ticket to happiness. So I think over the years, especially in high school, I'd be I can totally see myself friends with this person. Why don't they like me? I could totally be accepted in their group. Why aren't we friends? I could make this happen. And then when the universe would push them away or take people away from me, I'd be like, no. Why? We're great together. We work perfectly together. And I never understood. And as time went by, I slowly started to understand, wow, we were just never a great match. And every time I understand, I feel even more grateful and at peace, because it's what was meant for me. Those people in the past were never meant for me. And me trying to get these people to like me or accept me or feel, loved and valued, just showed me that I needed to feel loved and valued for myself. So I think that was so literally probably biggest life lesson, because as I'm doing it now, I'm slowly starting to see people attract to me rather than me chasing these people that I like or I admire. I don't chase anyone. I don't believe in that, because I just believe you work on yourself and work on your goals, and your aura will attract those people. They are coming. There's no need to worry. There's no need to impress or nothing. Just be relaxed with who you are. So I think slowly I get excited about people. I'm inspired by people, but I never stress. I never worry. I just know everything will come naturally as long as I'm working on myself.
I think mine go quite hand in hand. I think mine a lot has to do with just self-expression. I think I've, again, always really struggled with self-expression. And I think the more I'm able to formulate this language for myself, I'm able to somehow, implement that in the Fem Files and kind of find people that also relate to these feelings, or, these very human feelings that we feel, rather than, whether it's quote unquote good or bad. I think the Fem Files has, grown a seed inside of me to, remember that we're all connected, and that I'm not in this alone, and I don't suffer alone, in self-expression. There are thousands and millions of other women that feel very similar, because the way that a woman is supposed to be, again, is a bit of a universal thing. And I think finding a way to self-express out of this sort of hole is a very interesting, and there's good and bad days to, as far as understanding how to get out of it. And I think the Fem Files has helped me so much in that sense. And it's helped it itself as well, the Fem Files itself, because I'm able to find that connectivity and also have it in my personal and professional life.
Yeah. I love what you said, Raquel, about not chasing people, because I think that's so important. I think sometimes we hustle for that worthiness. And I think it's Brene Brown that says that, but we're hustling for people in our life, for experiences, for a career, whatever it might be. We're chasing it because on some level we're really hungry for it, but it's kind of, I think sometimes it comes from this place of desperation too. Like you really want it and you want to force it to happen because it's not happening, on its own. And I love too what Vanessa, you were saying just about that piece about expression and then just having that connection along with it. I think it really just goes to show the power of starting a project or being part of a project, a platform, or building something that you're really passionate about. Just the power of it to really, bring out the best of you too.
I think it's really just been such a positive aspect in our life that now that I think back to it, it's funny when you create something, you don't ever really take time to appreciate it and really look at it like, wow, we did this. Like, we've been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. Because because every day you're hustling, you're going, you're posting, you're living. You don't stop for a second to appreciate, I'm doing something really great here and it makes me feel good and it makes other people feel good as well.
Which is so nice about this podcast because like even answering these big questions, it's so nice to reflect and be like, hey, we have been doing this year, we have been growing and just to take time, to remember all of it.
It's really important, I think, to take stock of where we've been, in order to move forward. And we are on Seek the Joy podcast. So I have to ask you about joy in your life, although I'm pretty sure we talked a little bit about it before. What are some things that you love to do that really bring you joy?
I mentioned this earlier, but I think the weather gives me life, whether it's rainy or cold or warm outside. I just think it just gives like light to my skin. Like it just gives so much life to who I am and just empowers me to keep going. And also creation. I think I find so much joy because I can have all these ideas and we can have all these thoughts, but just putting a name to it and putting it into something tangible and to being able other people to appreciate it and love it and relate to it and use it. And that brings me joy. And that doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It could be, writing something in the morning or, folding up a little note and putting it under a seat or, painting something or, it can go on all levels for everyone, what that means to them as far as creating things. But I think that's the biggest joy that I find in my life.
No, definitely. I'll definitely build off of that because I feel like creation, especially when it comes to writing, I really think any kind of creative outlet is speaking from like the deepest part of yourself. So I feel like when I write, I'm really bringing out all these emotions and all this light that we need to express. And it makes me happy that I'm able to come up with something original. Like when I have an original thought or an idea, or even if I, play with an outfit and put a good outfit together, to me, that brings me joy that I'm using my mind and using just my creativity to build myself rather than looking on the outside and seeing what everyone else is doing or writing or listening to and following that. So to me, it brings me joy to create my own path. And that's on a big scale. When it comes to other things, I can be so simple. Fruit makes me really happy. Reading books makes me so happy. Doing new things. I like to stay adventurous. So if I go on a trip or if I go somewhere that I've never been before or done something new, I really thrive off new experiences. So I always look for that. I think in day-to-day life. Routine definitely, I appreciate routine because you need discipline when you're working on your dreams. But as far as everyday life, I always want to do something new, just something small, just change up the way you live.
Oh, I love that. For someone that's listening to this podcast and maybe they want to, push themselves out of their comfort zone or take a risk or follow the things that they love in the way that you both have, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
I think I would say listen, and don't get me wrong, I've heard this before, but I really, really want to emphasize on this. You need to listen to your gut. We all have little feelings in our body. Like when you go into a room with people you've never met before, maybe an interview, anything, when you get a little feeling that something's not right, trust it. When you get a feeling when you meet someone, you get a really great feeling about someone. And you might feel like they might be an important figure in your life in the future. Trust it. You're not wrong. Don't try to mentally convince yourself that feeling is wrong, because it's not. It's trying to help you, lead you to where you need to go. Mm-hmm. That's why I think, like I said, if everyone's honest with themselves, everyone goes where they need to go. Everyone meets the people who are meant for them. I think a lot of people don't listen to that internal voice, and that's why they end up in places where they weren't meant to be, and that's why they end up unhappy. So listen to that voice. That voice is everything you have, and that voice is going to be your guide as you move through life.
And I think listening to your gut also has to do with just when you want to leave your comfort zone, trying to ignore fear to be able to step outside of that, because it can be really difficult when you have all these voices in your head telling you no. But stepping out of your comfort zone can be very scary. But I think and it's funny because we create these comfort zones and these limits in our head because they're not real. And I think listening away from them, ignoring them, just
or choosing to do it anyway. You hear the fear, but you continue to challenge yourself. You continue to step outside your comfort zone.
Just freeing yourself from what you think that you are. And I think by doing this, because there's society standards, there's societies that other people have on you, there's stuff that you put on yourself that you think you can't get out of this comfort zone. But again, it's all a construct that you have created inside your mind, and it's up to you to be able to listen to your gut that maybe you want to try something different, and maybe you want to not associate with this thing, this sort of box you're confining yourself in.
Letting go of who you think you should be and allowing yourself to
just be.
I love that. Kind of going along the same lines in terms of stepping outside of your comfort zones. What is your biggest dream?
Let me see.
I have many.
Right? I'm like,
how do I choose?
I know. I think it's hard to have just one. I
can pull out my list. We can talk about me and my sister both have like what is it? Dream boards or mood boards for our dreams, and lists on lists and redefining lists of just what we want to do. And those are things that are, an inner work. And then those are also things that are concrete titles.
Like, I don't know, I think as someone, I consider myself a little bit of a Renaissance woman. I have a lot of love, I have a lot of interest. But for me, I feel like my biggest dream would be an all-around media mogul. So kind of like a public figure, director, a writer, kind of like a widely known performer. So just someone who can, just using the Fem Files and myself as having a prominent role in media and being in front of the camera and being behind the camera as well. To me, I feel like that would just give me so much joy, and just a woman that can do it all and be it all. On the big scale, I want to be a huge example, obviously, for all women, just with unlimited potential and unlimited possibilities. But of course, I have, some checklist things, I would love to be a Glamour Woman of the Year award and be on Time Magazine and go to the Met Gala. So I have those concrete goals, but as far as what I can be, it's just there's no ceiling for me. So it's you want to perfect your craft in one area right now, so you can build up to that point. But once I get to that point, I'm ready to spread. I could write a script here, I could work on some production. I kind of just want to be able to spread my ideas and create the change we want to see.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful vision for what we just talked about, because freeing yourself from yourself, but you're only confining yourself to whatever you think that you are. And Raquel's I'm going to do everything, which I am totally open to. I see myself, I want to be a professor at Parsons for a bit. I want to influence so many creative women that don't have a voice yet. Or maybe just formulating the voice, or maybe working with women that have a very strong a strong voice as a creative or just as a human. You know, some of the dreams that I have is I want to go to the Met Gala. Me and Raquel always talk about going to the Met Gala, being on, I know those are titles that I want to hold, but I'm just so about, you know, doing stuff every day so that I can see bigger for myself. So
yeah, like the clear image of what you want.
Yeah. So just practices every day of self-love. It's really hard to keep those habits. So, you know, doing that. And then I want to publish and make a visual book. I want to work with a ton of creative directors, art directors, models. And I'm open to all sorts of different individuals, writers. And honestly, our parents really were the stem for the ability to think outside of ourselves and just know that your world is your playground and you can be anything you want to be. And they've been so supportive and open to whatever that is. They don't care. My dad always says, I don't care if you're a trash man as long as you're a really good trash man. Just, you know, perfecting whatever craft. And then in the meantime, growing yourself and your inner work. And that's the most important thing besides all the titles that we want to hold, which we will get to. And I believe that.
Yeah.
I'm confident in that.
Yeah. Guys, I loved this conversation and getting to know you both. And I really needed this conversation today. So I have a feeling that everybody that's listening is going to walk away feeling the same way that I am. And so thank you for being on Seek the Joy podcast. And before we go, where can everyone find you and find the Fem Files?
Okay, so first and foremost, definitely our Instagram. It's just going to be at the Fem Files. Right now, we're revamping our website and really excited for it. So definitely watch out for it in the next week or two. It's going to be www.thefemfiles.com. Yeah, and for the most part, like we are also on like Tumblr, Facebook, but it will just be the Fem Files if you wanted to reach us.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes,
it was wonderful.
You're so welcome. Thank you. This was a great conversation.